Buy my motorcycle, sir. My daughter hasn't eaten in 3 days. The desperate voice cut through the hot afternoon air. HASN Al-Fayed stopped in the middle of the sidewalk, his Italian leather briefcase still in his hand. He had just left an executive lunch when he heard those words. He turned slowly. Under the shade of a tree, a black man of about 35 was sitting next to an old Harley-Davidson. Prematurely gray hair, faded t-shirt, trembling hands holding a sign, motorcycle for sale, urgent $2,000. HASN, CEO of Al-Fayed Industries and one of the richest men in Houston, recognized that face immediately. Jake Morrison, former logistics manager at his own company, fired 6 weeks ago. Morrison, HASN said, approaching. The man looked up, his eyes red and deep. It wasn't just despair. It was the slow death of dignity. Mr. Al-Fayed, Jake whispered, lowering the sign. I didn't want you to see me like this. But HASN was already seeing everything. The trembling hands. The sweaty t-shirt. The worn-out shoes. And that motorcycle, scratched blue tank, dull chrome, probably the last thing of value Jake owned. Across the street, sitting on the grass, HASN saw a black girl of about 7. Next to her was a pink bicycle and a sign, for sale. And next to the girl was a woman who was too thin, hunched over as if breathing took all her energy. My daughter, Emma. She's 7. Type 1 diabetes. She needs insulin every day, Mr. Al-Fayed. But without health insurance, Jake's voice trailed off. HASN looked at the girl again. Emma's trying to sell her bike, Jake said, breaking down. She thinks it will help. She doesn't know that $20 won't buy even half the insulin. My girl hasn't eaten in 3 days because we're saving every penny. HASN felt something tighten in his chest. 6 weeks ago, Jake had been laid off during the restructuring. The decision had been made by Richard Caldwell, the Vice President of Human Resources. HASN hadn't even been at that meeting. He had trusted Caldwell blindly. Why are you selling the motorcycle? It belonged to my father. He died in Iraq in 2007. It's all I have left of him, but Emma comes first. Jake straightened his shoulders. I don't want charity. I just need $2,000 today. HASN took out his wallet and counted out bills. But something didn't make sense. Jake was a manager with a decent salary. Why would someone fire him just when he had a sick daughter? Tell me exactly what Caldwell said when he fired you. Jake looked at the money, $3,000, as if it were poison and salvation. He said I was missing too much work. That my personal issues were affecting my performance. But Mr. Al-Fayed, I only missed 4 days in 6 months, always because Emma had seizures. HASN felt anger rising. Did he say anything else? That people like me should understand that opportunities like this don't come around twice. That I should be grateful. And that if I had been less concerned with domestic issues and more with the company, it would have been different. People like me. Domestic issues. HASN knew that code. Do you have this documented? I have all the doctor's notes, all the emails. But you know how it works. Caldwell wrote the report for poor performance. It's my word against his. HASN looked at the woman across the street. Your wife. Sarah. She was also fired 2 months ago. She worked in the operations department. Caldwell said she didn't fit the corporate culture. HASN froze. Your wife worked for me too. Jake nodded. Sarah Morrison. Operations manager. 5 years with the company. Caldwell fired her for excessive absences. All justified because of Emma. Something formed in HASN's mind. It wasn't just Jake. It wasn't just Sarah. It was a pattern. Keep your motorcycle. And accept the money as an advance on your salary. You and Sarah come back on Monday. Same positions, health insurance reactivated immediately. Jake almost fell over. "Are you serious?" HASN nodded, but inside, a storm was brewing. If Jake and Sarah had been unfairly fired, how many others had been? "Go take care of Emma. And send me all the documents. Emails, certificates, everything. Yours and Sarah's." When Jake crossed the street toward his family, HASN remained alone under the sun. His anger wasn't just for the Morrison family. It was for all the disposable people Caldwell had discarded. What HASN didn't know was that the Morrisons were just the tip of the iceberg, and that in the coming weeks, he would uncover a conspiracy of systematic discrimination and fraud, a vice president who had built his success on the ruins of vulnerable families. If you're enjoying this story of justice and second chances, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to find out how a CEO discovered that his right-hand man was destroying lives to increase his own bonuses. On Monday morning, HASN arrived at the office 2 hours earlier than usual. The sun had barely risen, and the building was still quiet. He hadn't slept well since meeting Jake. Sitting behind his desk, HASN opened his laptop. Terminations, last 12 months, HR department. The system processed. When the results appeared, HASN felt his stomach churn. 43 terminations. All approved by Richard Caldwell. All for poor performance or cultural fit. HASN clicked on each name, studying the profiles. Pattern after pattern emerged. Deshaun Williams. Single father. Terminated after missing work 3 times for his son's emergencies. Gabriela Reyes. Mexican immigrant. Terminated after requesting leave to care for her mother with cancer. Malik Johnson. Veteran with PTSD. Fired for emotional instability. They all had one thing in common: families that depended on them. And they had all been replaced by younger single people with no family baggage. HASN called Farah Nazari, the company's corporate lawyer. One of the few people he trusted completely. "Farah, I need you to come to the office now. And don't tell anyone." 40 minutes later, Farah was analyzing the same data. "HASN, this is systematic discrimination. If it goes to court, the company could lose millions." "I know. That's why I need to fix it before it leaks. But it's not just about money. It's about justice." "What do you need from me?" "Conduct an internal investigation. Quietly. Interview everyone who was fired. Collect evidence. Emails, recordings, testimonies. Everything about Caldwell." That afternoon, HASN received an email from Jake. Dozens of PDF files. Medical certificates. Emails reporting emergencies. Caldwell's cold replies: "Your absence has been noted." But there was something else. An exchange of messages between Caldwell and the CFO, Trevor Walsh. Caldwell, cut 5 more this week. All with expensive dependents on the health plan. Estimated savings, $340,000 annually. Walsh, excellent. Keep focusing on those with sick children or dependent family members. They're the most expensive to maintain. HASN read it 3 times, feeling nauseous. It wasn't just discrimination. It was a calculated strategy. Caldwell and Walsh were eliminating employees whose families cost more, fabricating false justifications. And both of their bonuses were calculated based on operating cost reduction. HASN printed everything out and locked it in a folder. Then he called Farah. "I found something. It's worse than we thought." Over the next few days, Farah worked discreetly. She contacted 28 of the 43 who had been fired. They all told similar stories. Dedicated employees, suddenly fired after family events. And they all mentioned the same phrase: "People like you need to understand that the company can't carry dead weight." HASN asked Farah to record the interviews. Each testimony was a stab in the heart. Fathers crying. Mothers recounting how they lost their homes. Families destroyed because one man had decided that profit was worth more than dignity. But HASN needed more. He needed irrefutable evidence. That's when he remembered Daniel Park, the young IT analyst. Discreet, competent, and coincidentally one of those Caldwell had tried to fire but HASN had vetoed months ago. Daniel, I need a favor. And it needs to stay between us. Of course, Mr. Al-Fayed. Can you recover deleted emails from the server? Specifically from Caldwell's account from the last 2 years. Daniel swallowed hard. Technically yes, but it would be irregular. I know that. But Caldwell tried to fire you because you took leave when your father had a stroke. Remember? Daniel's face hardened. I remember perfectly. Then help me make sure he doesn't do that to anyone else. 3 days later, Daniel handed over a flash drive. Everything I could recover. There's some heavy stuff in there, sir. HASN opened the files that night at home. What he found made his blood boil. Hundreds of emails between Caldwell and Walsh planning layoffs. Spreadsheets categorizing employees by family cost. Lists with red stars next to the names of Black, Latino, and immigrant employees. Priority, high turnover acceptable. There was even an email where Caldwell bragged, I managed to save almost $1 million in healthcare costs this year. My bonus is going to be epic. HASN printed everything. He organized it chronologically. He cross-referenced it with Farah's testimony. He now had a 200-page dossier proving systematic discrimination, fraud, and illicit enrichment. But it wasn't enough just to prove it. HASN wanted public justice. He called Catherine Brooks, an investigative journalist at the Houston Chronicle. Catherine, I have a story for you. But I need you to keep it confidential until I give the green light. What are we talking about? Systematic discrimination, fraud, intentional destruction of vulnerable families. All documented. There was a pause. When can we talk? Very soon. HASN hung up and looked out the window. Below, he saw Caldwell leaving the building, laughing on the phone, probably celebrating another bonus. He had no idea of the storm about to break over his head. 2 weeks later, the executive board meeting was scheduled for Tuesday at 10 a.m. Richard Caldwell entered the conference room with his usual air of superiority, impeccable Armani suit, leather briefcase under his arm. HASN was already seated at the head of the table. Next to him was Farah Nazari with a stack of documents. On the other side was Catherine Brooks, identified only as an external consultant. And on the big screen was a spreadsheet that Caldwell would recognize if he paid attention. Good morning, everyone, HASN began, his voice calm but dangerous. Richard, take a seat. Caldwell frowned. HASN, if this is about the quarterly numbers. It's about your numbers. HASN motioned to Farah, who activated the projection. On the screen, names, family costs, red stars. Notes, cutting priority, son with cancer equals $180,000 per year. Easy target, single mother with no resources. Caldwell's face paled. What is this? These are your spreadsheets, Richard. Recovered from the server. The same ones you used to fire employees with families who were costly to the health plan. Trevor Walsh, the CFO, shifted uncomfortably. HASN turned to him. Don't try to get out of this, Trevor. You're here too. Farah read aloud. Email from Caldwell to Walsh, March 14th. Quote, cut 5 more this week. All with expensive dependents. Savings, $340,000 annually. Walsh's reply, excellent. Keep focusing on those with sick children. The room erupted in murmurs. Caldwell stood up abruptly. That's been taken out of context. You can't go through my emails. Corporate emails, Farah corrected. Perfectly legal. And there's more. The screen switched to photos. Jake next to the motorcycle. Sarah with Emma. Other families destroyed. 43 families, HASN said, his voice sharp. 43 employees fired under false accusations. All to increase your bonuses. Trevor tried to defend himself. HASN, this is standard corporate management. Silence. HASN slammed his fist on the table. Don't insult me. This is discrimination. It's fraud. It's destroying lives for greed. Farah handed out dossiers. Testimonies from 28 employees. Documented, recorded, ready for court. Caldwell was sweating. You can't do this. I have rights. You did. Termination clause for gross misconduct. Catherine Brooks identified herself. I'm Catherine Brooks, Houston Chronicle. This story goes to press tomorrow. Front page. Caldwell's face turned purple. This will destroy my career. How did you destroy 43 careers? HASN replied coldly. How did you leave a girl without insulin? How did you make a veteran lose everything? Farah opened another folder. In addition to the layoffs, you falsified reports and, in Walsh's case, diverted funds to offshore accounts. Walsh turned pale. The FBI has been notified, HASN continued. But first, I wanted you to see something. The screen showed a live broadcast. Jake was in front of the building, surrounded by former employees. Sarah with Emma. Dozens of journalists with cameras. I called a press conference. I'm going to announce that Al-Fayed Industries was the victim of an internal conspiracy. I'm going to apologize personally. And I'm going to announce that everyone will be rehired with full severance pay. Caldwell staggered. You're destroying me. No. You destroyed yourself. I'm just serving justice. 2 federal agents entered. Richard Caldwell, Trevor Walsh. We need you to come with us. Caldwell tried to negotiate. HASN, we can work this out. I'll return the money. Just don't expose me. HASN looked at him with disgust. You had 43 chances to do the right thing. You chose greed every time. Now face the consequences. The agents escorted them out while Caldwell still tried to negotiate, his voice growing more desperate. HASN went down to the lobby. The cameras flashed. Jake was in front, holding Emma. My name is HASN Al-Fayed, and I'm here to apologize. As CEO, I failed to protect the employees who trusted me. I allowed cruel men to turn this company into a machine for destroying families. He paused, looking at the cameras. But today that ends. Every person who was unfairly fired will be rehired. Every family will receive full compensation. And we will implement policies to ensure this never happens again. Jake held out his hand. Thank you for believing in us. HASN shook it firmly. Thank you for not giving up. Emma ran and hugged his legs. Thank you for saving my family, sir. HASN knelt, his eyes watering. No, little one. You saved me. You reminded me of what really matters. The cameras captured it all. The billionaire CEO kneeling before a 7-year-old girl. The perfect symbol of humanity triumphing over greed. That night, the story exploded nationally. Caldwell and Walsh were formally charged. Their names became synonymous with corporate cruelty. And HASN discovered that justice, when finally served, tasted sweeter than any profit. 6 months later, HASN was on stage in the company auditorium. But this time, it wasn't for a board meeting. It was for the reopening ceremony of Al-Fayed Industries under new values. The audience was packed. In the front rows, Jake and Sarah Morrison sat with Emma between them. The girl wore a new dress, and her glucose meter, now covered by the best health insurance, glistened on her arm. Next to them sat Deshaun Williams with his son. Gabriela Reyes with her mother undergoing treatment. Malik Johnson, the veteran, now head of security. Jennifer Chun and her twins. All 43 had returned. All promoted. All with back pay. 6 months ago, HASN began, I believed that being a good CEO meant maximizing profits. That numbers were more important than names. I was terribly wrong. He paused, looking at Jake. A desperate man trying to sell his last memory of his father taught me something no business school ever taught me, that success without humanity is not success. It's just greed disguised as efficiency. The audience remained in absolute silence. Richard Caldwell and Trevor Walsh have been convicted. Caldwell got 5 years for fraud and discrimination. Walsh got 7 years for embezzlement. Their bonuses, $3 million combined, were divided among the families they harmed. Applause erupted, but HASN raised his hand. But that's not victory. Victory would be if it had never happened. That's why today we are announcing new permanent policies. Farah took the stage, holding a document. First, unlimited paid family leave for medical emergencies. Second, expanded health coverage at no additional cost. Third, a support program for employees with special needs dependents. HASN took a deep breath. And fourth, 20% of all profits will go to a fund for working families in medical crises. Not just our employees. Any family in Houston who needs it. The audience rose to their feet in ovation. Emma ran to the stage, climbing up with her father's help. She was holding a drawing made with crayons. Mr. HASN, she said shyly, I made this for you. It was a drawing of HASN kneeling before her, with a huge sun and the word hero in crooked letters. HASN took the drawing, his eyes welling up. He knelt down to her level. I'm not a hero, Emma. Your father is. Your mother is. You are. I just did what I should have done from the beginning. Emma hugged him, and the photo of that moment made the cover of dozens of magazines. Not as a symbol of charity, but as a reminder that empathy can exist in the most unlikely places. 3 months after the ceremony, Jake Morrison was promoted to Director of Operations. Sarah became Regional Manager. Together, they led a team of 200 employees, many of whom had been discarded by other companies for having too much baggage. Al Fayed Industries prospered. Productivity increased by 37%. Turnover plummeted. And for the first time, the company appeared on Fortune's list of best companies to work for. HASN received proposals from other corporations wanting to learn from his model. He agreed to share, but on one condition, that they implement real change, not just public relations. One Friday afternoon, HASN met Jake in the parking lot, the same one where it all began. Jake was standing next to his Harley, now restored and gleaming. I thought about selling it several times that day, Jake said, running his hand over the blue tank. I thought it was my only option. And today? HASN asked. Today I know there's always another option. We just need someone willing to see it. HASN looked up at the building. In the windows, he saw employees laughing, working, living. Not just surviving, but thriving. You know what I've learned, Jake? Caldwell thought people were disposable. That profit was everything. But he was wrong. People aren't the cost. They're the investment. And when you invest in people, the return is infinite. Jake smiled. Emma asks about you every week. She wants to know when Uncle HASN is coming over for dinner again. Tell her I'm free on Sunday. As Jake sped away, the roar of the Harley echoing between the buildings, HASN felt peace. Purpose. The certainty that he was finally making the right difference. 9 months after his arrest, Richard Caldwell would be released on parole. No job. No reputation. Nothing but the weight of 43 families on his conscience. He tried to contact HASN, asking for a second chance. HASN refused. Not out of revenge, but because second chances are for those who learn from their mistakes. Caldwell had never admitted he was wrong. In a televised interview, the host asked, "What would you say to other CEOs who prioritize profit over people?" HASN thought for a moment, then replied, "I would say that one day someone desperate for help may come to you. And at that moment, you have a choice. You can turn your back and protect your profits. Or you can reach out and discover that humanity costs nothing, it pays dividends forever." The interview went viral. Business schools began using the Al-Fayed case in ethics classes. And slowly, other companies followed suit. Emma, now 8 years old and healthy, sent HASN letters every month. In her last one, she wrote, "When I grow up, I want to have a company like yours, where no one has to sell bikes to eat." HASN kept that letter on his desk. A daily reminder that true success is not measured in dollars, but in lives transformed. Jake never had to sell his motorcycle. Sarah never went hungry again. Emma never ran out of insulin again. And HASN never again confused efficiency with cruelty. Because in the end, the best revenge against men like Caldwell is not to destroy them. It is to build something so great, so full of compassion and justice, that their greed becomes irrelevant in the face of the power of humanity. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness always wins, subscribe to the channel and share it so that more people can discover that a simple act of compassion can change not only a life, but the whole world.